Hi, and thank you for joining my presentation about cyberbullying and cybersecurity. My name is Emily Fairchild, and this presentation is for the American College of Education. The first thing we're going to start with is talking about cyberbullying. So it's important to first understand the definition of cyberbullying. Cyberbullying is any type of bullying that takes place over digital devices. This could be through phones, social media, laptops, tablets, video gaming system, across any kind of platform. And it could be sending, posting, distributing negative, mean, or harmful information about another person. Typically, it could be pictures that are being distributed without someone's consent. It could be sending someone mean or derogatory messages. It could be threats. There's lots of different forms of cyberbullying. It could look a lot of different ways. And here are some of the types of cyberbullying. There's lots of different types, but these are some of the most common. Harassment and flaming are pretty similar. Harassment is constantly messaging or texting another person with derogatory or mean words. Flaming is similar to that. It's really taking a deep jab at someone and really kind of exploiting their biggest weaknesses or their biggest insecurities. Exclusion with cyberbullying is similar to exclusion with bullying in person. It's purposefully excluding a person from a group. Outing is exposing someone's personal information they might not want shared or information they might want to share on their own terms. Masquerading is pretending to be someone else and insult or threaten another person. It could be done anonymously or it could be done under the guise of another person. It's important as teachers that we recognize cyberbullying. One of the most important ways that we could recognize cyberbullying is just by listening to our students and their conversations with other students. A lot of times students share information with other students when they don't think that we are listening. So really paying attention, and if we hear something that signals a red flag, really exploring it and not just tuning it out. I think as teachers sometimes we want to put our fingers in our ears and go la 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 la, but when it comes to cyberbullying, it's really important that if something is shared between students or with us from a student, that we do take it seriously. It's also important that we watch for student changes, so increased or decreased use of technology. If we see a student avoiding different social situations, or if a student just doesn't want to talk about what they are doing on their device, those could all be red flags that they might be being cyberbullied. And there's lots of solutions for cyberbullying. The biggest thing that we can do as teachers to provide a solution for cyberbullying is helping students identify when they are being cyberbullied, especially for our more vulnerable populations that might be cyberbullied and not realize they're being cyberbullied. It's important that we arm students with the knowledge of what cyberbullying is and what it looks like. We need to make sure we have streamlined ways of reporting cyberbullying instances. Students are more likely to report cyberbullying instances when they know they can do so anonymously and that the process isn't something that's labor intensive. It's something that can be done discreetly and quickly and can get taken care of immediately. It's important that we arm students with ways that they can safely take a stand against cyberbullying. A lot of times cyberbullying isn't done within the confines of our classroom. It's done outside of school. And students might not feel empowered knowing that they don't have their teacher or their peer groups behind them in that immediate instance to support them. But students need to be able to safely take a stand against it. And we all need to just be aware of what our students are doing online, both in our classroom, in our school, and outside our school. So now we're going to talk about strategies for dealing with instances of cyberbullying. I think the most important thing that we can do for our students is to arm our students with concrete, specific steps to take if they feel that they are being cyberbullied. We're going to watch this quick video. It's geared for students, but it's an example of a way that we can arm our students with this knowledge.
Meet Alex. He's a kid a lot like you. He's in the 4th grade. Here he is, hanging out with his friends on the playground. The 6th graders are having recess at the same time as the 4th graders. One 6th grader, nicknamed Big Mike, is a big bully. Sure enough, Big Mike comes up to Alex and starts picking on him, calling him names and making fun of him. Alex is scared, but he knows what to do. He imagines he's a courageous superhero and runs to tell the 6th grade teacher about it. The teacher puts Big Mike in timeout and makes sure that Big Mike won't be allowed to play with younger kids for a while. Bullies are no fun, but did you know that you have to watch out for bullies on the internet too? Kids who send mean text messages and emails or taunt kids on websites are called cyberbullies, and they can make other kids feel just as bad as Alex felt on the playground. A couple of weeks after Big Mike got in trouble at recess, he sends Alex an email calling him names. Then he writes a nasty lie about Alex on a website that a lot of the kids at school can read. But that's not all. After school, Big Mike sends Alex a text message every 10 minutes that says he's going to beat Alex up the next day. Oh man, Big Mike is really scaring Alex. As you can see, Big Mike's cyberbullying is just as harmful as his bullying at recess. And the worst part is that cyberbullying can happen anywhere, even when Alex thinks he's safe at home. What should Alex do? The answer is simple, but Alex has to be courageous again. He saves the nasty email, the website posting, and the text messages and shows them to his parents. His parents contact the school and give the principal all of the evidence of Big Mike's cyberbullying. Now Big Mike is in even bigger trouble. This time, his parents are notified, and he's suspended from school. Cyberbullying is no fun, and it makes kids feel sad and scared. If a cyberbully targets you, be courageous like Alex and tell an adult, a parent or teacher, about it. It's the best way to keep the internet safe and fun.
One thing that video does a really good job of is arming students from the students' perspective of what cyberbullying is, and also letting students know that when they report instances of cyberbullying, that there are consequences for the perpetrators. And I think as a school site, that's something that's really powerful. Students need to know that when they report, that it will be investigated and that there will be consequences for the perpetrators, for the people who are cyberbullying them. When students know that there's clear consequences, they're less likely to cyberbully and more likely to report instances that happen. As teachers, we need to make sure that we take steps to prevent cyberbullying. Talking about cyberbullying with our students, what it looks like, what it doesn't look like, documenting instances that we think are of cyberbullying that we think are occurring, reporting those instances, and providing support for the victims. A lot of times victims might feel like ashamed or embarrassed, but providing that support and letting them know they did the right thing by reporting is really important. And for schools have to create a school culture that does not tolerate cyberbullying. Creating acceptable use policies and really enforcing those policies is tantamount. Providing training for staff so that they know that when they hear their students talking about cyberbullying cases, that they don't put their fingers in their ears and tune it out, that they do something about it, and that reporting is being taken seriously and investigated and following up with consequences. It's also important that schools are partnering with parents. We can monitor students in our school when they are at school, but once they leave our campus, parents need to do their due diligence as well. There's lots of resources online for both teachers and students that talk about cyberbullying. There's lots of lesson plans available as well as fact sheets and tip sheets and handouts, publications, blogs. So I do really encourage all teachers to reach out to these resources and arm themselves with knowledge as well as their students and their school community. We're going to move to talk about cybersecurity. This video is great about defining what cybersecurity is. It essentially breaks cybersecurity down into its two base words, cyber and security, and how those two words come together to create something really powerful that protects end users, us, from attacks on our information.
So what is cybersecurity? If you break the word cybersecurity into two words, So what is cybersecurity? If you break the word cybersecurity into two words, you will find it is made up of the words cyber and security. The dictionary defines the word cyber as relating to or involving computers or computer networks as the internet. So in other words, cyber is essentially anything related to technology. This includes computer systems like laptops, servers, and phones. Computer networks such as the internet or local area networks. Computer programs such as operating systems and user applications. And data like your personal assets or important files. So with an understanding of what cyber is, let's look at what cybersecurity is. Cybersecurity is the protection of these computer systems, computer networks, computer programs, and data against hackers. When systems are protected, it is known as system security. Patching is an example of system security. When computer networks are protected, it is called network security. A firewall is one part of network security controls. When software programs are made secure, it is known as application security. When data is made secure, it is known as information security. And finally, cybersecurity is incomplete without the end user. So you and I play a big part in cybersecurity.
I think the biggest takeaway from that video is that the end user, us, we play the biggest role in cybersecurity. Hackers are becoming increasingly more sophisticated. All these companies on the right, or entities on the right, are all entities within the last couple of years that have been under a massive hack. And when things like that happen, it's our information that gets compromised. So we really need to make sure that us as an end user are doing what we need to do to protect our information. And it's important to know that there's no organization or entity that's safe from a potential hacking occurrence. That includes people, corporations, religious institutions, and governments. So just like we go to great lengths to protect our own personal information, schools need to do the same thing to protect the information of their students. Schools harbor a lot of information about students. They harbor birth dates, school ID numbers, parent information, telephone numbers, addresses, whether a student has an IEP or is an English language learner, or health information. So it's really important that schools do their due diligence to make sure that that information is protected. Ways that they do this is that they promote responsible use policies, acceptable use policies for their students. At my school, every student has to consent to the acceptable use policy before they're even allowed to be on a device at school. Data needs to be stored securely. Firewalls need to be created, and they also need to be maintained, and they need to be checked routinely. Networks need to be continually monitored. And school districts can purchase cyber insurance. So in the case of a cyber attack and it affects them monetarily, they are able to be protected through their insurance. In different learning environments, it's important that we implement best practices to ensure that our students are safe. In face-to-face learning environments, it's important that we actively monitor what our students are doing within the confines of our classroom when they're using technology. We can use mirroring platforms. My school uses a platform called Land School, which mirrors what the students are doing on their computers onto my computer. So if a student is accessing something that's not appropriate or not secure, I'm able to mediate and make sure that we get back onto something that is secure and safe. We also educate our students. We have acceptable use policies. We talk about digital citizenship. And those are things that we do in a face-to-face school environment to make sure that our students are making safe choices. In a blended classroom environment, it's important to continue to do all the things that we would do in a face-to-face environment, but it's also important that we put in provisions to control access into learning platforms, digital learning platforms. It's important that firewalls are maintained and tested, and that we're ensuring that antivirus software is continually updated on devices. In virtual learning environments, again, controlling access into learning platforms is really important. Helping students create secure passwords is really powerful. Implementing things like cryptography and timestamping also really helps protect that virtual learning environment. So we want to talk about how we can prevent cybercrime. So there's steps that we take as adults to prevent cybercrime, like we make sure our passwords are long and strong. We use caution when using wireless networks and hotspots, and we make sure that our security software is always up to date. But there's things that schools have to do too. They need to make sure they're monitoring their networks. They need to make sure that they are reporting suspicious activity and that they have a plan in case information is breached, in case they are under a cyber attack. And they also need to make sure that that acceptable use policy is being strictly monitored. The things that we do to personally protect ourselves are things that we need to teach our students to do. We need to teach our students that creating a password that's just their name and 1234 is probably not going to be secure. And giving them those life skills so that as they get older, they're able to protect themselves and their information in a digital world. There's lots of methods that we can take also to protect data. Like I said, making sure your passwords are long and strong and not something that's easy to guess. Making sure that when we put our own personal information into a website, that it's a trusted website that's secure and encrypted, that we're backing up our data frequently, and that we're using caution when using hotspots and Wi-Fi. When we jump onto Wi-Fi at the local Starbucks or at a coffee shop or wherever, that we're not going onto websites that ask for our personal information. We have to understand, and we have to teach our students to understand as well, that any hotspot or Wi-Fi isn't necessarily secure. And we want to be using caution when we use those as ways to access internet, because the data that we provide when we're on those browsers might not be secure. And there's also lots of teacher resources and teacher-created lesson plans for lots of different age groups that teachers can use to teach their students about cybersecurity and cyber crimes. I never thought to teach my students about cybersecurity, and I found this super helpful, and there's lots of things that I'm going to implement within my own classroom. These are the references and the resources that I used today throughout our presentation. Thank you for hearing my presentation.